afraid of the dark?
Hello, dear listener. Do you believe in the paranormal? Today I will talk about what made some people believe this. Here's what they said. In our past house, the bed was set up in a particular way. Sometimes at night it felt like a cat or a small dog was jumping on or off the bed at a specific spot near my feet. I didn't think much of it, but recently as a joke I mentioned the ghost cat to my husband, and he said he felt the same thing in the same spot. We slept at different times due to his work schedule. If we have a ghost, at least it's a friendly house cat. I was riding my bike on a narrow path when an elderly woman, also on a bike, passed me. I was going fast and was about to overtake her. I was just a couple of meters behind her when the path suddenly turned right. I lost sight of the woman for a second as I turned the corner. But when I looked ahead, she was gone. To the left was an open field. To the right was a fenced-in area, and there was only one straight path forward. There was nowhere she could have gone, and I know the area well. That woman just vanished into thin air, and it still baffles me to this day. One night, while playing a video game with my ex-girlfriend, we both heard a deep, male voice coming from near the bed. We couldn't make out any words, but it sounded like drunken muttering with too many syllables to be a single phrase. It was as if he was saying 3 or 4 words. We both stopped what we were doing and just stared at each other. When I got married for the first time, my grandmother let us stay in her old house since she had moved out but couldn't sell it. One night, my husband, who was often abusive, beat me up. I ran to the bedroom and locked the door, but he banged on it for an hour before giving up. I always felt that my grandfather, who had passed away in that house, was looking out for me. A patient in the ICU stepped out of his tent right after he died. I noticed him with my peripheral vision, but when I turned my head, he was gone. I'm just curious, was he wearing hospital clothes or his regular ones? I don't know why it matters, but it does. It makes me wonder if clothes can also become ghosts when their owners die. I was in my room and walked into my parents' bedroom. I saw my brother sitting on the couch, so I kept walking. But then I remembered that my brother isn't bald. I turned around, but he was gone. When I was 5, I walked out of my room into the hallway that led to my mom's room. I saw my mom standing in the middle of the room, and then she turned and went into the bathroom, closing the door. So I went to the kitchen and found my real mom doing the dishes. I didn't think anything of it at the time because I was 5 and oblivious, but my mom got freaked out when I told her that the other her had gone to the bathroom. I think it might have been sleep paralysis. My friend and I were on a road trip and stayed at a hotel on Highway 66. I fell asleep, but she stayed up, watching something on her phone. I kept dozing off, and each time I woke up, I saw a dark figure of a woman standing between our beds, staring at me. I was tired from the trip and used to having sleep hallucinations, so I didn't think much of it. Later, I woke up to the sound of the door slamming, and my friend jumped into my bed, lying stiffly by my side and staring at me. I screamed, "What the damn Eerie," and turned on the light, but there was no one there. My scream brought Mary out of the bathroom, and I told her it was just a nightmare. Later that night, I woke up again and saw the woman standing between the beds. This time, she walked to the bedside table and seemed to be writing something. I whispered Mary's name, but before I could say anything else, she interrupted me and asked, "Landon Fontaine, is that you?" We turned on the light and stared at each other for a minute. She started asking me what I had seen, but I calmed her down, saying we were both too tired from the trip and that we had already paid for the room. We kept the light on and lay in the same bed for the rest of the night. In the morning, as we were leaving, we compared our stories. Mary said she had been shining her phone light in my direction because she saw the shadow of a woman standing there, and it freaked her out so much that she went to the bathroom. She also saw the woman approach the table. Now, we both have tattoos to commemorate that horrible, hellish trip. And of course, thanks for the gold, kind stranger, and thanks to everyone for my top-rated comment. Some additional info: the hotel was a chain hotel located in the middle of nowhere. During the night, I kept telling myself that a chain hotel couldn't be haunted. Later, we Googled our experience out of curiosity, and a few people had written about seeing different things in that hotel. I think it has something to do with its proximity to Highway 66, And also, this state is known for its history of native massacres. I have a ton of awful sleep paralysis stories, and now I'm wondering if some of them were more real than I thought. I wouldn't call this one scary, just weird. My brother passed away a few years ago, and when my mom and I visited his grave, she left a little paper windmill on it. My mom said the windmill would spin every time she came to visit. I never disputed it, but I didn't believe it either. Recently, I went to visit my brother's grave, and I was feeling particularly gloomy and cynical, so I said something like, "I'm not an idiot, I know the windmill will spin regardless. Keep in mind that it was windy, and it immediately stopped spinning, just stopped. Completely." I was shocked and even teared up a bit. I have no idea what it means, if anything, or maybe I'm just overthinking it. I took a photo of my parents with one of their friends while we were all playing cards one night. I was looking at the screen, framing the shot, and didn't see anything strange. But when I took the picture, there was an old man in a flannel sweater standing behind them, looking out the window. When I was 21, I was looking for a new apartment or room to rent. I found a guy on Craigslist who was renting out a room, and I set up a meeting for the next morning. That night I dreamed that I went to the guy's house, and he showed me the room. As I walked past the stairs leading to the basement, he pushed me down the stairs and then tied me to the bed. I woke up scared and sweating. I checked my phone, and my mom had sent me a message saying she had a strange feeling and that I shouldn't go to that house because it felt bad. I don't know if it was a supernatural warning or just intuition, but something stopped me from going there. When I was very little, I had an imaginary friend named Samantha. I remember playing dolls with her very clearly. One day when I was around 5, I asked her why she never appeared when my parents were around. They had divorced and seemed to be separated for good. Samantha replied, "Your mom can't know about me because I was little and naive." I just said okay and continued playing with my dolls. Later, when my imaginary friend wasn't with me, I remembered this conversation and told my mom about it. She freaked out and told me to be quiet. It took a while before we finally talked about it again. It turned out that my mom had a friend in high school who had committed suicide. Her name was Samantha, and after that, I believed in supernatural things. I have moving shadows that are cast by nothing and no one. My cat stares at them in complete horror, and every time they appear, the fire alarm goes off, along with the speakers that aren't even connected to anything, which start making static noises. I work at a funeral home, and sometimes my dog, who is usually very calm, will suddenly bolt from the room and run into another room, barking her head off for a few minutes before returning and lying back down. I'm convinced it has something to do with the paranormal, although I'm not too interested in all that. I'm sure the living are far scarier than any ghost that ever existed. One night I woke up to see multiple shadows surrounding me and one on my chest holding me down by my wrists. I woke up the next morning thinking it was just a dream until I saw 2 bruises on my wrists, as if someone had been gripping them very tightly. My husband and I were house hunting with a realtor and walked into a house that was over 100 years old. We entered through the front door, and there was no one else in the house except the 3 of us, and no one was living there at the time. We quickly looked around, on spending no more than 3 or 4 minutes inside before deciding it wasn't for us. As we approached the front door we had come in through, there was a large rocking chair blocking the entrance. My husband moved it out of the way without saying a word. I asked the realtor how the chair got there, and she just shook her head, saying she didn't want to discuss it. We all walked silently to the car.